All right, welcome back to another show, but a different guest. We got Casey O'Neill this week, and I appreciate you coming on. Especially, it seems like you're on vacation, and you're interrupting your vacation to join us. So appreciate that, Casey.
Yeah, I'm in Hawaii right now on a little vacation, but definitely couldn't miss the fights and was super excited to jump on with you and talk about them.
For sure, for sure. First off is let's get an update on I saw that you posted something about your knee that you're ready, like you're cleared to train. Just give us a update on what's going on.
Yeah, so clear to do some striking, some pads and stuff like that. Still not jiu-jitsu. We're looking at maybe one more month maybe, or 2 more weeks, hopefully. If I had it my way, I would be doing it now, but got to listen to the doctors. So little baby steps, but we're improving every day, and I'm seeing the finish line now, so I'm pretty much ready to get back in there, even if it's not at 100%, just building it up slowly and then looking to get a fight in early next year.
All right, that sounds good. That sounds good. Sounds perfect. And you also recently took a trip out back home, which you haven't done in a few years, right? How was it going
Long
back?
time. I think 4 years, just over 4 years, I hadn't been home or to Australia, should I say. But my little sister was having her first ever MMA fight, so couldn't miss that for the world. Headed home and cornered her for that first amateur fight, and she won. She looked amazing. And also tried my hand at commentating a little bit. I did 2 nights of commentary and loved it. Thought it was so fun, and if I did well, if I do say so myself. So I hope to do a lot more of that in the future.
Yeah, I caught some of the show. Eternal is the best, promotion in Australia, right? Outside of, the bigger promotions in the world. And yeah, how was it? Was it nerve-wracking though? That they put you on the spot, right, when you're commentating.
It was for maybe like the first couple fights, but after that, I just sort of found my groove. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to fighting, and like you said, Eternal is like the best promotion in Australia right now. So the fighters were super high level, and it was just really easy to talk about because they just gave us a show. So a lot of great fights, and I was honored to be a part of it. And I had Kyle Noak, who's also Ultimate Fighter veteran and a UFC veteran, in the commentary booth as well, helping me along, and Tanera, who does it all the time. Those guys are great, so it's easy to just mesh straight in with them and just say my pieces when need be, but they say all the important stuff, so it makes it easy.
Yeah, multiple generation of fighters coming out of Australia. It's great to see. Now, was there any fighters you saw like you think they're UFC ready on those two cards?
I would say there's a lot that are very, very close, but
Mhm.
a big problem in Australia is having a lack of people to fight. It's still a growing sport in Australia and New Zealand, so there isn't as many fighters as there is, say if you came to the stateside and you went to a regional show, people have a lot more experience than people in Australia just because there's so many people to fight. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot that are close. Just need a couple more fights, a couple more wins on their record, and uh, but we do have some people coming out of Australia. I think Jack Jenkins just got a Contender Series fight and win and contract, and he was an Eternal MMA champion as well. Same with
Yeah.
Jack Della. Same with myself.
Yeah.
So if I do say so myself, Eternal is a really good uh, sort of leveling testing ground for the UFC, and they seem to pull a lot of talent from there for the UFC Australia New Zealand cards. So there's a card coming up in Perth. We could see some of those winners end up on that card anyway.
That sounds good. Yeah. Also, I believe Shannon Ross, who
Oh yeah,
he,
Shannon as well.
yeah, he got a contract, so it's good for him too. He was also an internal champion as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So
Stephen
yeah,
Erstick, who's coming up. Sean
yeah,
Etro, who was on Road to UFC. So as Eternal champions are going out in the world and proving that Eternal is number one, and no other show in Australia is doing that. So I'm pretty proud of how far Eternal's come in those 10 years.
yeah, definitely. Now before we get into talking about the main event at UFC Vegas 61, I need you guys to go down in the descriptions and download the app. The AllStar, we have an app. Casey, did you know that? Probably not, right?
I didn't know that, but I'm gonna download it. Everyone else should
Yeah,
download
for
it.
sure. For sure. Check it out. Download the app. It's, everything's like live updates, statistics, everything that's, you need for MMA. You could customize it for other sports as well. So go check it out. And yeah, just do what you think in the comments about the app. And yeah, we'll get back to you guys. The main event, we look at, I'm going to look at some of the statistics. I'm going to read you some of the statistics. It's a
Sounds good.
5-round fight. They went at it, right? It was one of the
Yeah.
best fights, I think, women's fights of the year. Mackenzie Dern, she landed a total of 224 strikes. Xiaonan landed 151 strikes. Now, that's a pretty big gap, right? What do you think about
Yeah,
that?
definitely. Look, I know the decision was like, was it a draw? Was it Jan's? But for me, watching the fight, I think that every time Jan landed, it had a little bit more of like that impact. You know, the more significant strikes of the fight were coming from her. So I see, you know, Mackenzie landing a few more, but I think a lot of it was also ground strikes, and they were all to set up a submission. It wasn't like she was going out there and trying to finish it with ground and pound. She was just throwing pitter-patter shots sort of to try and get her arm under the neck. Had she thrown a couple of harder ones, I think she probably would have got her out of there in the fifth. I was screaming at my phone, just throw a little bit harder. I'm like Team Mackenzie all the way. Hate to be biased, but I love Mackenzie. So yeah, I would have liked to see her go a little harder with that. But Jan looked great for someone who has a very limited BJJ background. She did really well, and especially in that fifth round to last 4.5 minutes, not getting submitted by someone like Mackenzie.
Yeah, the second round as well. Like, Jan came out in the first round, did really well defending the takedowns and kept the fight on the feet. And then Mackenzie came back in the second round and pretty much dominated around, almost, escaped some dangerous positions Jan did,
Sorry.
Mackenzie, I was kind of shocked, you know what I mean? Like how well she defended against Mackenzie, because usually Mackenzie gets girls in those positions. She finishes the fight. We've seen her get early finishes with submissions against high level, girls in the division. So were you shocked by like how well because she said in that post fight, like, I'm a white belt, she's a black belt, you know what I mean? Like, I think I did really well against her.
Yeah, I mean, she did really well for those 2 rounds. All that Mackenzie needs is like one submission, you know, and that's usually the end of the night for most people. So just shows that she's like improving in her game. Maybe she's a white belt right now, maybe not for too much longer. I'm sure that they'll be looking at that after that fight. Maybe she'll end up getting her blue belt soon. But Mackenzie also makes it like super awkward. She's not like someone who goes for double legs or something, you know, easy to defend a double leg if you put in the hours of learning how to sprawl and learning how to, you know, stuff the head. But someone who's willing to just throw themselves onto their back to take you down, like, it's super awkward, and it's hard to fight someone who's super awkward like that. I have experience fighting Roxy, you know, someone really awkward in their fighting style. So yeah, it really impressed me that she sort of, you know, was able to manage that really well and not get caught on the ground there. She stayed super composed and ended up, you know, winning the fight.
Yeah, I think that's part of the arsenal I think she needs to add to her game, is be able to press her opponents into the fence and use that cage wrestling to take them down, single legs, double legs. We don't really see that too much from Mackenzie, right? Do you think it's because she's so comfortable off her back?
Yeah, I mean, she's had a lot of success off of her back, so I do understand that maybe, you know, it's the easiest path to victory, but she is improving. You can see it in her striking, you know. She doesn't look as uncomfortable there as she used to. I think that there was just a really big power difference between her and Jan, so you've seen that a lot of the times when the punches landed, Mackenzie sort of would throw her head back because the punch had significant impact, especially if she's running forward trying to get those takedowns. The punches were landing a lot harder. So I see the improvements in her striking and her wrestling and everything, but obviously there is still work to be done, and I would like to see her add a blast double to her arsenal. I think that would have went really well under some of those really long shots from Jan. It would have been nice if she had a blast double in space and Jan didn't have the cage to get up. I think it would have been a different fight.
Yeah, with Jan, she kind of reaches, right, really
Yeah.
long sometimes, and it kind of opens up the middle of her body, right, for someone to dip under, like yourself. I mean, you
Yeah.
probably see that when you're watching the fight, like you could just dip under and take her down immediately.
Yeah, but you know, Jan has that traditional striking background where you do stay really, really long. So It's a blessing and a curse. If someone can get under your legs and blast W, they'll take you down. But if someone's constantly running in to try and do upper body takedowns, it's really easy to catch them with your long straight punches. And Mackenzie is an upper body takedown kind of girl, so I think they definitely did their homework because she's seen that a lot of the time.
What do you think about her striking? Do you feel like it is getting better, or do you feel like it's just it is what it is? Because a lot of people are criticizing her for focusing too much on her boxing and not enough on her wrestling. But I talked to her before this fight. She's working on her wrestling like twice a week, 3 times a week. You know what I mean? It's not like she's neglecting parts of her game.
It's easy to sit on the couch and say, she needs to be better, she needs to do this, but she's a girl who's grappled her whole life. That was her whole life before transitioning into MMA. So she comes in with the base of jiu-jitsu and she's learning striking as a beginner in the biggest organization in the world, So in my mind, she's not doing too bad because she's hanging with these girls. It's not like she's going out there and getting knocked out per se, but it does have work to be done, but she's in a good spot, and definitely I do see the improvements in her striking, but it's not an overnight fix. It's something like her jiu-jitsu took years and years to master. It's going to take years to master your striking as well. You just have to keep putting in the work, keep showing up, and same with wrestling as well. I'm still working on everything also, so I feel the same way. Like, you just got to keep showing up every day, and one day it all clicks.
So where do you if you look at the rankings, right? Mackenzie was number 5, Jan was number 6. Now they probably switch positions, right? So you got Jessica Andrade at 4, Rodriguez, who I believe she has a fight. Whaley's fighting for the title, and you got Rose there. Who do you think is the best matchup for Jan next? Do you think it's Rose, Namajunas? Like, they should put them together because they kind of have a good style. They can mesh really well.
I would love to see Jan versus Rose, but I think that's a really tough fight for Jan stylistically, someone who likes to strike and someone who's so elusive and good with her footwork, and she's just well-rounded, Rose. So it's a tough fight, but it's the type of fight that I think that she needs before she goes in and fights for the title, just to gain confidence and prove to herself and everyone else that she can go there and beat someone, a former champion, before going in there for the belt. And I'm sure that if she does end up fighting Rose and beating Rose somehow, her and Whaley would be an insane fight also. So I would be really down for that fight.
Do you think the boogeyman of the division is Jessica Andrade? Like, nobody called her out ever.
I think she's got that crazy power in her hands. You've seen it in every weight division, like 35, 25, and 15. And the girl somehow never changes how she looks, but makes weight every time for every weight division. So to me, I'm just like, yeah, she's a little bit of a boogie woman and a little bit of an unknown. You definitely don't want to get hit by Jessica Andrade, that's for sure. So I don't see many people wanting to just take on that fight, unless they have to. She's a tough test.
Yeah. What about Mackenzie Dern? Where does she go? I don't know if she's gonna fight ahead of her because she just lost, but she's a person that the UFC likes to promote. This was her. She was in a main event. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, she's pretty much fought almost everybody behind her. I mean, if you look at it, there's like Angela Hill at 12, Michelle Watterson at 11. I don't even know if Michelle Watterson's fighting anymore. Hiba, she fought her. Lemos, maybe, right? I don't know. Tisha Torres, she fought her. So it's it's hard to say where she goes from here. Maybe she goes back into the lab and works on some stuff, right? Let the division, figure itself out a little bit.
Yeah, I'd like to see her take a little bit of a break and go work on some things, and maybe even take a step back and fight somebody in that bottom half of the top 15, just start racking up a few more wins and gaining confidence in her striking. It's really hard to fight somebody like a super hard person like Jan and try and work on your striking in that fight. Like, that's a fight you take like a 15 or a 13 ranking and go in there and try and work on your striking with them. But it was high stakes for this fight, and obviously the winner was going to move forward to big things and the loser was going to have to take a step back. But Mackenzie will build back for sure. She's still young, and like you said, the UFC likes her, so I'm sure that they'll help push her and help give her some fights where she can work on some things and get better and then come back.
Yeah, for sure. Now I wanted to switch gears and talk about this back and forth you had the other day with this guy on Twitter. about
Eddie.
like break down what happened to us. I just want to know because I don't know the whole story. I just saw a little glimpse of it.
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on MMA Twitter. I love MMA Twitter, and I love, uh, engaging with my fans and talking to them. And I feel like Twitter's been really good for that for me. Like, people always get on there and talk to me, and I try to respond to everything I can. And even the negatives sometimes, I just think that it's really funny to like call people out on what they're saying, because half the time someone will say something on the internet that they would never say to your face. So he called me out online and said that he thinks I'm a terrible fighter and that he would beat me. So I told him to come spar. I've got one ACL currently, not even cleared to spar, but I know for a fact I'd beat his ass. So I was like, okay, come down to the gym. He said he was going to be there. I got Eric to sign off on it and tell him to come and just sign the waiver. And I seen he'd been posting some cryptic tweets during, the build up. And I'm fully prepared to, kick his ass on Tuesday, but he deleted his Twitter.
Wow.
Today, when I woke up, I seen that his account is no longer, so I don't think Casey versus Cal is going down anymore. I don't think I'm going to be beating up the Twitter troll unless he shows up, but I highly doubt it. I think that people just like to talk on the internet, and they think that you're never going to say anything back to them. And then when you do, they think, oh shit, And it blew up a little bit more than I expected. I expected it to just be like, he either shows up or he doesn't, but we've got Barstool Sports covering it. I've got Hunter Campbell from the UFC texting me, don't have any unsanctioned fights, please. I need you healthy. Like, everybody taking it seriously. So, yeah, it was pretty funny for me, though.
TikTok is even on it. I mean, like, I see some
Yeah.
TikTok stuff going on.
I know.
So.
I woke up and I had, like, so many people blowing up my phone, and my mom called me and was like, are you fighting a guy? Like, nobody had any idea what was going on, but I was like, I think so. I'm not sure if he's going to show up, but now it looks like it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, man. We could go deep into
Twitter.
that. Yeah.
I love it. It's so funny. Like, come at me. Try me. I'll call you out.
Yeah, you do see a lot of guys, like, going at women fighters. And it's like, yo, like, do you know your skill set compared to their skill set? Like, I've seen women beat the shit out of dudes, like, in the gym, just like crazy. You know what I mean? Like, if I was that dude, I probably would never train again. You know what I mean? Just like demoralizing. It doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man. It's just they beat them so bad that it's demoralizing. You know what I mean? So me myself.
I think they just say it for attention almost, I don't know if it's like a fetish thing, like they want to get beat up by a woman or something, so you have to pay me if that's the case. But no, it's pretty funny. I like it, I've been in the gym training with guys since I was like 13 years old, and hold my own against them, or sometimes I get my ass kicked, but either way, doesn't matter. They treat me the same a lot of the times. But when you have random guys from the internet who have no idea how an MMA gym works, they'd be very surprised coming into somewhere like Extreme with, the type of level of girls that we have there. The smallest girl there would probably beat their ass and break their arm. So it's pretty funny. I welcome everybody to come and try.
Yeah, she's welcome. Todd Johnson, he says, I love you, Casey. She is, I love Casey. She is a very good fighter. I am so happy that her rehab is has been going so well. She is an inspiration to so many. You know what I mean? That's what it's about, right, Casey? It's about inspiring people through your journey.
That's why I started this YouTube channel, to show this knee injury. It's the first big injury I've had to deal with in 10 years of fighting MMA. So I've been pretty lucky, but obviously it's a super hard thing to deal with. Even giving up your whole life basically for 5 months, nobody thinks about it that way, and it goes quickly for everyone else, but you're sitting at home just in the darkness, basically depressed about the fact you can't train, and you come out the other end. You just got to keep going. So I hope that it's inspiring people to just keep going. I've had a lot of either amateur fighters or just young sports kids. I had a girl who's like 13 years old from Australia who plays soccer, who tore her ACL and had to go for surgery, and just some people messaged me saying that they were going through the same thing. And it's nice to have someone to look up to, or someone to show you, it's not the end. You just got to keep pushing, whether it's hard or not. You just got to keep going, and you get out the other end.
For sure. Actually, there's another question, and it was about your YouTube. You know what I mean? How did she get the idea to make the YouTube videos? You talk about you had the knee injury, but was there other inspirations behind starting the YouTube?
I've been wanting to do it for a long time, but building my platform first, obviously, and then, you know, every time that I had a fight coming up, I'd be like, okay, I want to start documenting for YouTube, but it's hard. Like when you're in a fight camp, you do not want a camera in your face 24/7. You're hungry, you're grumpy, you're tired. Not every training session goes your way. So I was like, you know what, we'll just put it off for the next one. And I kept saying that over and over again. And then I had started filming to get ready to drop my YouTube, and I was going to start dropping it in time for the Jessica I fight for International Fight Week. And then literally the week we started filming, we filmed on the Monday and Tuesday, and on the Thursday I tore my ACL. So I was like, oh damn, I guess this is going to be a ACL recovery. It's the perfect time to start my YouTube. So
yeah, that's it's good and bad. You know what I mean? It's bad that you did get injured, but then it's good that you had all that footage that you can use to show your journey. It's always good that way.
Plus, I think that it was kind of like a blessing in disguise a little bit, not for me having a bad ACL now or like having to have this time off, but I wasn't willing to take any time off, even if people were saying, you know, like, why don't we take a fight at the end of the year? I was like, fuck that, I'm getting 5 fights in this year, you know, like I just want to fight all the time and I want to fight everybody. So sometimes things force you to slow down and realize that now you're at the point where you kind of need to take a little bit longer in between fights. And this injury has taught me a lot about recovering and taking time between fights and not training 27 times a week and just like being a crazy person. I'm getting a little older, so I got to start listening to my body.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, everybody keep the comments and the questions coming. I'll get to those as we go. Another question, you know, I'm interested to get your thoughts on is about the 17-year-old kid that got signed to the UFC. You know, 17, not even like 19, 17. I think he turns 18 pretty soon. But what do you think it says about, you know, the sport when 17-year-old kids are getting signed by the UFC?
I mean, it's crazy, right? Like they just keep getting younger and younger. I feel like when I got signed, everyone was like, oh, she's young. And then, you know, there was like Chase Hooper and like Macy Barber got signed really young, and Aaron Blanchfield, and just like a lot of really young people. So I guess that it just shows how like popular the sport's becoming, and people must be putting their kids in super young, or that older generation of fighters who first started are having kids and like getting their kids into it. Because I do know Raul and his family, they train at the same place as me in Las Vegas, and let's just say that kid and his brother both kicked my ass completely on the ground. They just are amazing. Like I can't believe how good they are for their age. It's insane. And I wish that MMA was a little more mainstream when I first started. I did have my first MMA fight at 15, but imagine getting into the UFC at 17, how much money I would have now. So he's going to have a good life if he keeps it up.
Yeah, and he's in the video game already. He hasn't even had a fight in the UFC.
I'm actually mad about that because I'm not in the video game yet. You know, I think that video game is bullshit. And I was going to say F EA Sports, but I won't say that because I do still want to get in the game. But please put me in the game.
Of course. I'm pretty sure a lot of UFC fighters that probably have even like 10 fights, they're not even in the game. And it's
it's crazy.
That's craziness, right? Like,
I feel like there's got to be a way to put all ranked fighters into the game. Like FIFA has all of their players, and that's so many players. Like I can't even tell you how many that is. It's more than 4,000 surely, you know, like all teams, all players. And you're telling me that we can't put like the top 15 of every division in the UFC? That's nuts.
It is nuts. Now let's go to the next fight. The next fight, the co-main event.
I have to admit that the only fight I missed is the Randy Brown fight.
Okay, so I'll talk about the Randy Brown fight because you've probably seen Randy Brown fights in the past. He's also part of the same management group as yourself, right? Yeah, you guys are killing it, right? Like you got both main event fighters, you got the co-main event fighter. What's going on? You know, I mean, you guys are doing it.
Well,
is it Tim Simpson? Is he the man?
A star when they see one. That's all I'm gonna say. So they pick up the stars, and you know that's who they end up with. And Timmy Boy is just a great manager, and obviously there's a lot more than just Tim, but he's my guy, so he's awesome.
For sure. Randy Brown, that's his 4th straight win, you know, in the welterweight division. I think people forget that he was signed from the show, Dana White's looking for a fight. He's like one of the original guys. This was years
Yeah.
ago, right? With Sage Northcutt and what is his name? Mickey
Oh
Gall.
wow, that long ago?
Yeah, that long ago. And he's the only one still around, and he's competing in the welterweight division. The welterweight division is full of killers, right? But he performs well. Sometimes he scares me though, because I like Randy Brown. I've interviewed him so many times, and like I have a good rapport with him. But in his fights, like he'll do some things. I'm just like, what are you doing? It's like, but I still think he's maturing as a fighter in there, and he's still kind of young, you know what I mean? Even though he has a lot of fights, but he's shown like flashes of like greatness. To be honest with you, like he's had some crazy finishes. Like, what do you think of overall? Like, what he's been doing?
I think he's great. I think he's super long and tall for the welterweight division. And like you said, that's a crazy division in the UFC. It's hard to look great in a division of killers like that. So I think he's been doing well. I think that he does make some mistakes, as you said. Even like today, I saw the highlight of that like knee where he ends up getting taken down. But it's just little things, little fight IQ mistakes. But if you are in there, it's hard not to jump onto something that you see. You want to get an emphatic finish, so a flying knee would be that. So it's hard not to go for it if you see it. But it's hard to also get finishes in the welterweight division. But I would like to see a couple if he can manage to do it somehow. Like stay long on the outside and get a couple of finishes coming up, and I think that'll help move him sort of more into contention talks.
Yeah, I think he's earned a ranked opponent or someone with a big name. You know what I mean? Somebody that is like a huge veteran or maybe even a legend of the division. I see him getting a fight like that in the future. Francisco Trinaldo, right? This guy is 44 years old. Will you be fighting at 44 years old?
I highly doubt that I'll be fighting at 44 years old. I would say I've probably got another 10 or so years in me, and then I'm gonna probably move on to something else, some sports journalism or something. I might take your job. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, for sure.
But
for sure.
no, not 44. I think that by that point, I want to move on and do other things. And it's crazy to me that he's still in the shape that he is and still puts up the fight that he does at 44 years old. But good on him. I think that was his last UFC fight, though, right? On his contract.
Most likely, yeah. Nowadays, fighters are fighting out their contracts a lot, like more often than you think.
Well, they've got big money coming their way, from like, I know for a fact, having Ray at the gym, that the PFL is signing, people, they want to make their promotion big as well. And they've been signing people for good money. And obviously Scott Coker loves to take people who have just come out of the UFC too. So he could get money from that. And there's Bare Knuckle now making waves and won championships obviously there. But there's a lot of places for people to go now. It's not just like the UFC is it, but still the gold standard. And I think that if you can stay with the UFC and make money with the UFC, it's the best way to go. But if you can make more money elsewhere, then good on you.
Yeah, a few years back there was no like so-called free agency or like what is it, like testing the market. There was none of that. There's now you have that, which completely changed the game. I mean, a lot of people like I don't think you have the anxiety of like, oh, this is my last fight on the contract. Like you kind of go out there and fight your fight, the way you want to, win or lose, and you could still get signed by another major promotion, like you said, a PFL or a Bellator. Ryzen's out there, one championship is out there. I mean, they could offer you money, and like you said, I've been hearing some numbers. I mean, I've heard some crazy numbers in Bellator as well. Just like,
I
wow.
mean, at the end of the day, we're all prize fighters, right? Of course, everybody wants that shiny UFC belt and the recognition, but money talks. And if you want to offer big bags of money, you'll get people coming your way real quick. And the UFC is more like a slow grind, I think. You got to like start on the lower end of the money and then work your way up contract by contract. But if you can make a name for yourself quickly, you can make a lot of money in the UFC as well. It's just about fight styles, and I'm definitely one of those people that will go where the money's talking. So for now, that's the UFC. But, I'm hoping to finish my career in the UFC too. Just got to keep getting those big bags from Uncle Dana.
And also, the UFC has the biggest platform. That's without question.
Yeah, sure.
And yourself, I see you kind of taking advantage of that platform and of other fighters as well. It's like they're using they know the UFC is the biggest platform. They fight for them, but it's not just that. They want to become a bigger name inside of that, outside of that. Like you got the Sean O'Malley's, you got Tai Tuivasa doing his thing. He's like there's a bunch of fighters there. And now you are, with the commentating, with the YouTube. Are you like setting things up for something in the future? Like, is that what you're doing right now?
Yeah, of course. Like the goal right now is to be the UFC champion and retire as one of the best fighters in the world. But at the end of that, I still want to be involved in the sport, because this is the only thing that I've loved my whole life was fighting. So I'd like to get into doing commentary at the end of it, or sports journalism, something like that. So starting to dip my feet in the water whenever I can, get a little bit of practice and make sure that it's something that I would be good at. And I definitely have the face for camera, if I do say so myself. So doing pretty well.
Yeah, you are. It seems like the UFC or even ESPN, they really want, fighters to sit at that desk. They really, because who else better to ask them questions about a matchup or whatever, like an incident that happened in the ring or the cage, a fighter, right, who's been in there, experienced it. And like I look at it like that as well. Even though I cover the sport and I interview fighters, but there's nothing like a fighter's perspective at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think that I like how the UFC sort of started to progress into having more fighters in the commentary booth, and just people that really know their shit. Like Laura Sanko is killing it on the Dana White Contenders. She's had a fight outside of the UFC, so she knows what she's doing and she's killing it. You've got DC killing it, Paul Felder killing it, Bisping killing it. So I think that that's the direction that the UFC is going to go in, and have people who fight for them or have fought for them. It's sort of like a retirement package, I guess, for the good fighters. So you just got to make sure you fight well and talk well and keep your brain intact, and then it's a great job option at the end of everything.
Yeah, it is a great job option, but I feel like there will be more by the time you would retire. There will be more avenues outside of ESPN. There's so many like TV channels and broadcasting companies out there that you could work for. So it's not just ESPN. You could go work for Fox, CBS, whatever. Yeah. So, you just got to set the resume right, and you can lead into that, right? The next fight on the card was a bantamweight fight between Trevin Jones and Xiaonan Barcelos. Man, Xiaonan Barcelos went in there and put in some work. Trevin Jones, he's really good, but Barcelos made him not look really good at the same time.
Yeah, he just started running away with that one. Trevin looked good early, but I think that it was another case of power coming into play. You could tell that Barcelos had a lot of power, and even whenever he would take him down, it was sort of like Trevin had no idea, how to get back up, or everything he was trying was getting shut down. And Trevor's my boy, I love him, but yeah, Honey looked really good in that fight, and he's old. He's really old too. It's crazy seeing these older guys still killing it and killing the young bucks coming up. They just making sure that they know that they're still here, I guess. And he looked really good. I would just really like to see him fight a little bit more consistently now. I feel like he only fights once every year or once every so often. So if he doesn't have much time left, let's give us a couple more banger fights, because he's always in exciting fights. So put a couple in a year and let's get going.
Yeah, 119 to 15 strikes landed.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
73 11 significant strikes landed.
It's especially because Trevor really did actually look like he started the fight well. For me, the first round, I felt like he looked like he started well, but then he almost just got overwhelmed, whether it was the power or the amount of punches coming from Xiaonan Barcelos that sort of slowed him down, or the threat of the takedown as well. That's a big thing. Hard to throw when you're always worried about, if I overextend, am I going to end up on my back again? So it was a lot of hesitancy from Trevin, but caused by Xiaonan Barcelos, and I just think he had a great performance.
Yeah, Trevin's my boy too, man. I've known him for so long, so it's it kind of hurts me a little bit to say Xiaonan did his work against Trevin, but Trevin's a guy that he could kind of put that in the back of his mind and move forward. He's really strong. So you know, shout out to Trevin, and hopefully,
he had a really
you know, he
strong
gets this.
start in the UFC too, you know, and it's like, I know what he's been going through. Obviously, we both lost a really close friend, and you know, you just got to figure your way through that sort of stuff. And I hope that the UFC gives him another opportunity, because I think he can still do big things. I think he's just in a murderer's row division, and I think that it's really hard to look good. It's actually really hard to look good in any division in the UFC, you know, other than maybe light heavyweight at the moment, which is a little stagnant, but every division is just stacked upon stacked. Probably 45 to 85 with the guys. So if you're in any of those divisions, it's like super hard to look great.
I think they don't understand like how hard it is to finish a fight. It's extremely hard. Like coming up, you know what I mean? Like you'll face some opponents that will give you things because maybe they don't have that fight in them, you know, they don't have that dog in them, right? But then when you get to the UFC, everybody has the dog in them. So it's like
most people have the dog in them when you get to the UFC. So
yeah, 90%. Let's put it out there, 90%.
90%. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Yeah. So like, yeah, when I see a finish, you have to kind of, you know, respect that. You know what I mean? Especially a quick one, because it's so hard to get finishes in the UFC. We got a question about finishes actually from Sirkan. What she actually prefer more? So what do you actually prefer more? To win fights in the first round by finish, or to fight over the full distance?
First round finish. You don't get paid by the minute, so I'd rather just take my minute, take my money and go and do my hours in the gym. But it is also nice to get cage time. That fight against Roxanne was the most fun I've ever had in my life. People can say what they want to say, but I was just grooving out there, vibing, having fun, and you know, bled a little bit for the first time ever. So it's just nice sometimes to get into a war, but first round finish is always good because you get paid the same.
Yeah, because we've known each other for a long time, right? Years. So I've seen most of your fights, and yeah, I don't think I've ever seen you take like any really like massive damage.
Never been made bleed before, ever, other than Roxanne. So
yeah, you're on your way to become like a BJ Penn.
So this is what we're talking about. Like the older generation's still kicking ass in the UFC.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think about Roxanne, you know, retiring? She's actually getting into the sports journalism as well now that she's retired. So it's kind of cool to see that too, you know?
Yeah, I'm happy for her. You know, she had a really good career, and for her to finish her career in the UFC after everything that she went through in her life, it's pretty awesome. You know, she started fighting when women didn't have the opportunity to fight, not only for the UFC but for like a lot of promotions. She was fighting almost underground in Japan whilst working as a teacher, and like helped pave the way for women like me. She went into that first was it the first season of The Ultimate Fighter that had women she was in, and you know, she got absolutely smoked in that division in the 35s, and then she comes back at 25 and looks like a completely different person with a vengeance. Gets in, makes it all the way to the Ultimate Fighter finale, puts on an amazing fight, and stays in the UFC until she finishes. So that's like the Cinderella story of MMA right there. And I'm super excited that she's getting into the journalism. I've been reading some of the stuff that she's been writing, those blog sort of things that she writes, and she's just super insightful, someone who's been around the game a long time, and as I said, been through pretty much everything that you could go through in MMA. So nice to have her perspective on things written out in paper for everyone to read.
Yeah, so she actually writes for the AllStar, so you know.
Yeah, I've been reading them. I know that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And we got Shane Burgos. He wrote for us. We got Sam Alvey, and then I got some good fighters coming up. You know what I mean? Some coaches too. I've been talking to. So I want to do that. I want to give an outlet to the fighters, because at the end of the day, like sometimes they surprise you with like how well they write. They write better than some of the journalists. I'm gonna put that out there.
Yeah.
Like some of the journalists are like dog shit, like seriously. And then the fighter sends me something. I'm like, what? And then they're like, oh, I work for the school newspaper in like college. I'm like, oh, it makes sense now, right? It's like you find out crazy things.
And it's also just your whole life when you're in the sport, so it's kind of hard not to be knowledgeable about things. I can't even talk anymore, but it's hard to not be knowledgeable about things when this is all you spend your time doing. So the ones that the fighters have been writing are really good.
Yeah. A question that is not even about fighting. It says, "Who is your favorite Aussie musician artist?"
I like Xiaonan. I like Hooligan Hefts. I like Lessie. I like Sticky Fingers. That's a completely different genre, but I like them too. Um, Tasha Sultana. I like Amy Shark. I like so many Australian musicians, but we'll leave it at that. That's the top tier of it there.
Uh, I've never even heard of any of those people, so I have no
Well, you
idea.
need to get onto it. I'll send you a list of music that you should listen
For sure, for sure. Send it to me. WMMAC now, he says, started following Casey in internal, so he knows your career. She's made smart decisions with her career, fighting for at UAE Warriors, same week as the UFC at fight. Yeah, let's go back to that. Remember you fought
You
at
want to
UAE
hear that
Warriors?
story? Because it's
Yeah,
probably
let's
the
just
craziest story of my life. So
okay.
I'm in Thailand. The pandemic started and we had to start shutting down. So actually before that, we had a bunch of the China UFC PI
PI.
fighters
Yeah.
come down to Tiger Muay Thai. And we were like, oh, what are they here for? Oh, their facility is closed down for a virus or something. And no one even said COVID-19. I'm like, oh, really? There's a virus there? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, I won't be going to China. Like, I was like, oh, I'm not going there. But then everyone was like, oh, wait, it's starting to go around the world. It's starting to become this big thing. So that's how in Thailand we sort of heard about it. Obviously, we're like in a big bubble there, little shell. No one really talks about things like that over in Thailand. So we're just training away like normal. And then people started falling out and saying they tested positive for COVID. And then everyone starts freaking out and the gym gets closed down. So I would say the gym was closed down for a solid like 3 or 4 months at that point. We were training out of Alex Shield, if you know who that is, great jiu-jitsu guy, coaching Tiger Muay Thai for a long time, now at Bang Tao with the Hickman brothers. But we were training in his garage with some mats that we took from the gym, and we had to like put up things so that the police couldn't drive by and see us and fine us. So we were just like illegally training at that point. And I was hitting pads still, and I was starting to really, really, really run out of money. I was down to about $500, and I was like, shit, I'm not going to fight anytime soon. Probably can make it another couple months, but that was my lifestyle in Thailand always. I never had any money. I moved there with no money, and I lived on a mattress on the floor for a long time. So you just make things work. And I was like, I'll make it work, no worries. And then more months went by and more months went by, and I thought, oh my God, I really need to make something happen here. So Danny calls me and says, they're offering you a fight on UAE Warriors. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. I don't care who it is, how much money, whatever. And he's like, okay, fine, but there's one problem. You can't get back into Thailand if you go there because they're not taking anybody right now for COVID. And I was like, okay, I'll just go back to Australia. Australia won't take you either. It's closed for COVID. Okay, I'll go stay with my family in the UK. Nope, the UK is closed as well. I said, where am I going to go? Danny's like, well, I'll smuggle you into the fight island, and from there you can get the plane to Vegas, and then you have 3 months in Vegas to make it work. You'll have to figure something out. So I was like, should I take this chance on myself? And then I thought, you know what? I've taken bigger chances on myself before. I'm going to do it. So I went to UAE Warriors knowing I had no choice but to win that fight. Like, that was literally my only choice. And then I went to UFC after that, stayed on weight, and had lunch with Mick every day. I literally made Mick sit at the table with me every single day to have lunch. If he was already there, I'd walk over and sit at his table, introduce myself, say that I would fight for him, say that I'm ready for the weekend, like just make sure that he knew who I was, and just was really annoying about it. Jumped on that charter flight to America with $3,500. That's all I had, $3,500 with 3 months to make it work, and then managed to get signed in the first 2 weeks of being there. I think it was either persistence or annoying Mick, and he wanted to either feed me to the wolves straight away because they offered me Lauren Murphy, or they just really needed someone. But it all worked out in the end. It was a pretty crazy whirlwind story, and very daunting, if I do say so myself. Standing out the back of that UAE Warriors fight was probably the most nervous I've ever been in my life, because I was like, if you do not win this, you have nowhere to go. Like, you have no hope here. So it's pretty nerve-wracking, if to say the least.
That's crazy. Like if you don't win, like that's pressure because
Yeah.
you're already undefeated, right? So you have the
Yeah.
undefeated record, but then on top of that, if you don't win, you don't go to the fight island. You can't get in to talk
Yeah.
with Mick Maynard because you just lost your fight, right? It's not like you
Yeah.
could talk Mick Maynard into signing you. So it all like kind of dominoed into a perfect, like a perfect form, right? It's just like
Yeah.
everything dominoed perfectly for you.
A lot
And
of
then
hard
when you got
work,
to Vegas,
but yeah,
yeah, of course,
for
of
sure.
course, of course. When you get to Vegas, so Mick, he knows who you are by now.
Yeah.
So in that 2 weeks, like, what are you doing? Are you like deciding, okay, I'm gonna start training at the gym, or were there
Yeah.
whispers of like them looking at you in that 2 weeks before you got
No,
signed?
nothing. So I had known Keller B for a little while, training at Tiger Muay Thai, and we'd sort of like been friends here and there, and texted her and said, "Can I crash on your couch for a little while until I figure something out here?" Because things were really expensive, and she was like, "Sure." So crashing on her couch, training at Extreme Couture whenever I could find a lift there or manage to walk there from where I was staying, and just was training, whenever I could. Managed to have Eric give me some free months there to try it out, I guess. And actually got a call from Danny one day when I was in the gym. He's like, "You're gonna leave tonight to fight Island and fight Lauren Murphy. Cynthia's out with COVID." And I was like, oh my god, I'm in. Like, this is it. I'd kept my weight really, really low. I was freaking starving at this point. Like, I was just like, I'm ready for this. And then I went to my house. I packed up everything I owned again, which was just one suitcase of stuff, not much. Packed everything into that suitcase. The UFC had a car that picked me up, drove me all around to do all the testing, like the eye test, the EKG, all that stuff. And then I came home, was sitting there, was basically waiting for the shuttle. There was an hour to go, and Danny called me and told me I tested positive for COVID, and I wasn't going to make it to the fight. So then the emotions started running high all over again, because I was like, fuck, they're not going to sign me. They were only signing me for short notice. So I had to call back my dad and be like, never mind, I'm not in the UFC anymore. And he was like, what's going on? And then Mick calls me maybe a couple hours later and says, hey, kid, I'm still going to take a chance on you. You're still going to get into the UFC. So almost dominoed into a better effect again, because I got a full camp for my first fight, and look how things have went since then. Who knows what would have happened in Fight Island, but super, I'm just super grateful for the whole experience and everything that I had to go through to get to where I am now.
And then, you just went back to Australia just recently, and that was 4 years, right? 4 years. It must have been crazy to like see everybody back there, and and all the success you've had since you left. Because when you left, you were in Thailand. You went to Thailand to go train at Tiger with your new coaches and develop your skill set. And then by the time you come back, you're already in the UFC with a few fights and like ranked.
Yeah. It was weird, but people in Australia are not like everywhere else. I'm sure you've heard Israel talk about it, tall poppy syndrome. People don't like to support you, so people didn't treat me any differently. Not many people, at least. A few people did, but not many people gave me my congratulations or my flowers. But I'm fine with that, because I'm where I am, and they're still trying to get there. So either way, it's fine. If you support me, then I love you for that. If you don't support me, that's okay too. I still hope that you do well, but it is what it is.
Are you a heel now? Like, because after the Roxy fight, you're just like, fuck you, and you want to hate me, fucking hate me. I don't give a fuck. Like
I don't
is
think I'm
something
trying to put on the persona. I think that's just me, like if you are booing me, then fuck you. Like, that's just how I am. Like I said, I call people out on their bullshit. So you want to boo, then fuck you. But I'm not gonna be like a heel character. I still want to be myself. I had a lot of things growing up that I followed, like a lot of girls and stuff who were not authentically themselves, and it caused a lot of issues for me growing up. So being a role model for girls growing up, I really want to be authentic and be myself, and show other girls that they can do the same and still get to a good place in their life, just being themselves.
Let's go back to the card. I'm gonna ask you about. There was one other fight, women's fight. It was Chelsea Chandler, who is like from Stockton. She she started training
She
with the
is a
Diaz
Diaz
brother.
brother. Yeah, she
Yeah,
is
she
a
is.
Diaz brother.
Yeah, she is a Diaz brother or sister. Like
Yeah.
that's the beginning of the
Yes,
sister, right?
sis. Yep.
She goes in there and just has an incredible debut. Did you get a glimpse of that fight?
Yeah, I watched that fight actually. I thought she looked really good in her debut. You know, she clearly carries a lot of power because every time that Julia got hit, it was like taking percentages off of how much she actually wanted to be in there at that point. Um, yeah, she looked really good, and I'm excited to see what she can do in the UFC um, with a sort of, you know, that was a layup fight, I would say, though, for Chelsea. Not saying that anybody in the UFC is bad, but I think that Julia's record was 1-4 in the UFC or something like that. So
Yeah.
I really would like to see Chelsea have a fight with someone um, at her level. I'll say maybe that Norma Dumont one that she was calling out. That would be really fun, I think.
Yeah, I think she's in a position and she fights. If she wants to fight at 145, I talked to her ahead of this fight. I interviewed her, and yeah, it takes a lot out of her to go to 135. The UFC wants her at 135, but she's like, "Hey, if you guys got fights at 145, I'll take those." And that's why she's calling out Norma Dumont, because there's no division, right? When you think about this 145 division, it's non-existent, right?
Yeah, it is. I think that unfortunately, if girls want to fight at 145, I think that they have to go elsewhere. I think that Bellator has a pretty good 145 division. Not well in numbers, at least. I won't say that they have any like huge stars. They have Chris Cyborg and Arlene Blanco, who's from Australia as well. She's killing it, but they have a few girls there at 45 and then 55. The PFL. She's probably a little too small for that, but I think she can make 35. I know she says it's a hard cut, but I see some room for some weight cut in there. I think she could make 35.
Yeah. But if
I
she
know
can't,
if Norma can make 135, which
yeah.
she has in the past, Chelsea can make 135.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
it's a rough. I think it's a rough cut for Norma as well. She's not small, right?
Yeah.
You've trained with her. She's
Yeah.
right. You've trained with her in the past.
No, I haven't trained with Norma.
Oh, you haven't trained with her. Oh, okay. I think I've seen
But
her
I
in
would
Vegas a
like to
lot.
see. She trains at Syndicate.
Oh, okay,
She's the
okay.
rival team. But I would like to see, even for girls, like a 5-pound divisional limit, you know, like 115, 120, 125, 130, 135, 140, maybe cap it at 140. Because 140, that's still a great division. You know, a lot of those girls that fight at 145 could make 140, and that would make a super exciting division as well, again. And some of those girls that are a little bit too big for 135, like I think Macy Chiason's a little too big. I think that she would do really well at 140. She's definitely too small for 145. But that's what I'm saying. Like girls, there needs to be more weight divisions. It's harder for girls to cut weight.
What about women's like open weight division? You know, just like after 135,
I wouldn't be
you
a
could just
part of
open
it,
weight.
but if you're a big girl, then good for you. Be a part of that. I'm way too small for something like that.
Yeah, I think Chelsea, she has a future. She only has 6 fights, right? So we don't know
She can
exactly
be a
how
star, you know.
talented.
She's got that Diaz energy that she's bringing in. Obviously, every Diaz fan ever will be a fan of her if she brings that same energy. So, like you said, she's got a super big ceiling. Her ceiling is very high. She just needs to figure her way out to getting to 35. And I don't even think it's too bad if it is a bad cut, have maybe 2 fights a year, build your experience, you know, that way you start getting on bigger and bigger contracts, making a little bit more money. And who's to say that we don't have the 5-pound weight divisions by that point?
You think that's even with the guys too? You think that would be better?
I'm just going to keep saying it until it becomes a thing. You know, like manifestation. This is my manifestation. Like I'm wanting it to be a thing. Yeah. So I'm just going to keep saying it and saying it's going to be a thing. So definitely, I think that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, even other combat sports, they have that. They, you know, boxing has it. Wrestling has it. You know, other combat sports, they have the 5
I'm not sure if we need to see it in the guys, but obviously that 70 to 85 jump is big, and that 85 to 205 jump is big. So something in the middle of those two, maybe. But I don't think the guys need every 5 pounds. There's so many guy fighters already in every weight division, and you know, I think that 25 to 35 for guys is not too big of a jump, but 25 to 35 for women is insane.
Yeah, it gives you opportunity to have like 2 titles, right?
Exactly.
Like 125, 130.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
That's
I
not
would
a
be down
bad.
to do 120, 125. I reckon I
Okay.
could still make 115 maybe if I only fought a couple times a year. It would be a rough cut, but we could do it. Maybe I could be the first quadruple champ or something like that if they bring those 5 pound weight divisions in.
What would
Max
it take
50.
for you to go
Max
down
50.
to 115? What would it take for you to go down to 115?
I've been thinking about it a lot lately. It's I want to fight the best in the world, and I think that the best in the world is at 115 right now. So it's been a big thought for me. But 125 is easy. I cut zero weight. Like I literally cut 3 pounds to make 125. So fighting at 125, just, they call me with a name. I just say, yep, sure, no worries. But I think that in the long term, I maybe want to look at going down to 115 and fighting the best girls there. But we'll see what my body does. I'm still growing. I'm 24 years old, so we'll see.
Yeah, we seen Cynthia, right? She was doing it. Jessica
Yeah, I think
Andrade.
she did a lot better at 115, though. I think that she's a smaller girl than
Yeah.
me, so I think that she would do better going back down to 115 for sure. I think that's her plan, though.
You're handling, like you're like much stronger physically against like a lot of the flyweights that you faced already. If you go to 115, like how strong will you be against them? Because you probably train with some of the 115ers at the gym, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a lot stronger and a lot bigger than them too. So it's all going to depend whether Jordy, my fight dietitian, wants to do it with me. If he wants to go down that journey again, I have some stories from the last couple of times that I cut weight, but there's more stories to that too. Living in Thailand, anybody who's been to Thailand and trained Muay Thai will tell you that the trainers fat shame you non-stop. So I was eating about 800 calories a day, just trying to stay on weight for 52. So I think that making it now would be a lot easier than it was back then, now that I've gained some muscle and some size, and I actually know what I'm doing as an athlete and not just doing this for fun. This is my life now. So
Yeah, Jordy, the proof is in the pudding. If you see the athletes that he has,
he has told me that he will take me back down if it's worth it. So let's see what the talks are. I want to have 125 when I come back, though, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, well, here we go. We open the door right there. The door is open now, right?
Yeah.
There's
who
a
knows?
question.
Maybe I'll go up to 35 and take a short notice fight there too. I'm not scared to do that either. So whatever happens, happens.
I love that attitude though. Even though you have the undefeated record, like you want to take fights, you want to take these challenges, because I think at the end of the day, it's not about undefeated record. It's about like who you fought and what you accomplished, right?
Exactly, yeah. My favorite fighter all time is Xiaonan Jacek, and she has losses to some of the best, but I do not give a shit about being undefeated. I could lose tomorrow and I would still have the same mindset. I want to fight the best and prove that I am the best. And if I fight someone and I'm not there yet, then that just makes me hungrier to go back and, get better and then beat them when I fight them again or come by them again. So undefeated or not, it doesn't really matter to me. I've just been training really hard my whole life, and that's why I've been getting the results that I have. But as I start to push up to the top of the division, I know a lot of girls are the same as me, so it gets harder and harder. As I said, even to get those finishes that I love gets harder and harder. So I just got to keep working hard and get there.
Yeah, two of my favorite fighters that I've seen, or my favorite fighters are like BJ Penn and Anderson Silva. Those guys, they fought different weight classes. BJ Penn, he's 155er, got all the way down to 145. He fought at 205 against Machida.
Yeah, he's
like
not.
That's a legend.
That was a different time. Like when people were real fighters. Like, it is a sport these days, and obviously it's a lot cleaner than it used to be and everything, But like those fighters, I sometimes miss people like BJ, like someone who's just down. Like, yep, you want me to fight at what weight? Yep, no worries. Like, I got this. I love that.
Like Anderson Silva, short notice, he fought DC. A lot of people forget that.
Yeah. That was a crazy decision. UFC 200, right? So
yeah.
And obviously it was a bit of a lackluster fight, but just shows, Jose Aldo, someone else that I love, fought anybody, fought people short notice, fought, who's who at his division. I love people like that. Conor McGregor, people can give him shit, but, he took Nate Diaz on short notice. He's fought Dustin 3 times. He's fought the best of the best, and the fighter's fighter is a dying breed. I'll say that.
Oh, this is an interesting question. Okay, what fighter do you go for when it's Aussie fighter versus a Scottish fighter?
I guess it just depends on whether I know the person personally or
Yeah.
not. Like a lot of the Aussies I know really, really well because we fought on the same cards coming up, because I fought in the Australia New Zealand shows, and then obviously my dad's had an MMA show for my whole life, so them fighting for my dad beforehand would have also been a reason. But if I don't know them personally, I just go by who I like better. It's not whether you're Scottish or Australian, it's who I think is better. But if you're fighting Paul Craig, I'll always go for Paul Craig.
Yeah, they brought it up in the chat. It's like when Jimmy Crute fought Paul Craig. But we got your
I
answer.
love Jimmy Crute, but Paul Craig is my guy. Like, my guy.
J23, he says, we need Casey at 125. Keep things interesting in that division. It is kind of true, though. He is saying a true statement. It's like that division does need some interesting fighters, some fighters that can challenge, that can move up and, and challenge Valentina. And a lot of people are looking at you.
It's not like, I'm happy to do both. So who knows? Maybe I'll go all the way to the belt and then decide to move down after that. We'll see.
There's a question here. Let me try to find it real quick. Okay.
My phone is going to die soon too, guys. Just FYI. Worried about that.
So
if I disappear, that's why.
All right. It says, which fighter athletes do you find motivational in the way they recover from injuries?
Myself. I take all motivation and all inspiration from myself. I don't look up to any other fighters. But, I don't think that there's ever been a fighter who hasn't come back from an injury well. I will say one person, though. Tatiana Suarez. Getting to know Tatiana Suarez in the PI, she is one strong bitch. Like, for real. She has been through some serious stuff in her life, and that girl just keeps grinding, keeps pushing, and, comes back super hard. And I think she's going to fight again soon. I've seen she's been training again. I don't know if that's me breaking some news, but she looks great, and she's undefeated too. She's a fucking gangster, and if she can get healthy, she's going to be the champ at 115.
That's great. Let's see what else. Here's another one. It's like, would you rather fight in London or Australia if you could choose next year?
I may already have one. I can't talk about it yet.
What? There has been some talks, right? There has been some talks.
So I'm coming. I'll say this. I'm coming back in March.
Okay. So there we got cards lined up for. I've heard some locations, behind the scenes about cards lining up early next year, and and Australia has been, London has been mentioned, or the UK has been mentioned. Even like Korea has been mentioned as a location early next year. So we'll see. We'll probably see you on one of those cards. What did you think about the whole Mark Zuckerberg? Like, I don't even know what really happened.
Is he an alien or not? Like, for real though, is he an alien? I think he might be an alien. I'm not joking. But yeah,
I don't know.
I think he did buy it out. Sorry, my hair is crazy because I was at the beach all day. But I think that he did buy the place out. I think that Dana just didn't want everyone to know about it. But I know he is running all of that stuff, the Oculus and stuff like that. And I think that eventually we might be seeing fights in Oculus form. So maybe that had something to do with what was going on tonight.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, someone in the chat is like, Zuckerberg is a reptile. I know my guy, Kai Wu. He's the one who trains Mark Zuckerberg. Kai Wu. Yeah, he's the one in the video holding the pads. Yeah, he's the guy. Yeah. He's been training him for a while. You know what I mean? Like,
who knew that aliens liked MMA as well? That's crazy.
Yeah, his face doesn't move too much, right? It's kind of like a melted.
I'm starting the conspiracy that he's an alien. UFC 500 is going to be on Mars.
Yeah. Well, it's great that he's a fan and he trains, and it's great for the sport because it broadens the view of it going beyond like a brutal sport. And like, because if Mark Zuckerberg is, supporting it, I mean, a lot of people that would not support it originally, they probably would support it now in computer land or tech land or whatever you want to call it. But it's great. How much longer do you think you have on your phone?
I'm at 4%, so maybe
All right,
3 minutes, 4 minutes. What do you
we're gonna
reckon? A
ride it.
percentage a minute? Let's just ride it out.
We're gonna ride it out. If she's gone, it's all good, Casey. You know, I enjoyed you coming on and getting the chat.
We'll try
You
to
know,
keep
from the
it going
card,
now.
let's talk about the card. Like, what performance that stuck out to you that we haven't talked about yet? Was there
Sadiq
anything?
Yusuf, he had that crazy guillotine. That was so fast. I was in shock of that. I thought that Mike Davis looked really good as well. Is that his name? The opener of the main card. He looked great against Slaviclaus because Slaviclaus is really, really scary. And, you know, he held his own on the feet, got him down easily. With ease, he took him down. And I thought he just looked really good. Who else? There was a lot of finishes on the prelims that were pretty awesome, if I do say so myself. I think that Guido Canedi, Guido,
he
made Randy quit there because he choked him out with 0 hooks in. I think that he made Randy quit, so that was pretty awesome.
That was
I was
crazy.
Super excited for Tabitha Ritchie to fight with Jessica Penny. I was sad that one got called off, and Max Grisham got called off too. So yeah,
Felipe Lins had like some stomach issues or something like that.
Yeah, well, I would too if I was fighting Max Grisham. I think he's very scary, and I was super excited to see him fight. So a little bit sad for that, but still a great card. A great card. I thought Alir Latifi, who I love, he's such a sweetheart. He did really well against Alexei Oleinik as well.
He admitted that he had staph after he just staffed all around the cage.
We've all fought with staph. I have fought with staph. We've all fought with staph. I fought with staph once on my butt cheek, and the girl blast doubled me to the ground, and it exploded.
Oh my god!
Everywhere, all over both of us. I know that's TMI, and like nobody will want to hear that, but that happened. That's for real.
Okay, talking about some crazy like women's MMA stuff. Xiaonan, right? She got for sure. Oh yeah.
Hawaii sunset.
Yeah, Hawaii's. Hey, Phuket has great.
Too. Sorry, 2 more minutes. I'm so sorry.
2 more minutes, yeah. Phuket has some phenomenal sunsets.
It does. I miss Phuket. I really can't wait to go back. Really can't.
I love that place. That's my favorite place in the world.
The first half of next year. I was meant to be there with you, and then I broke my knee.
That's right. It's all good, you know. I'm planning on going there early next year as well. So and staying a few months. So you know, we'll run into each other. What was I thinking? Oh, crazy like women's MMA story. Xiaonan, right? She fought Marina Rodriguez, and then Marina Rodriguez kicked her in the crotch, right? There's that picture of her like she's kneeling down the cage and like holding her crotch. Xiaonan.
Yeah.
Well, after the fight, I interviewed her and asked her like, you know, what happened, and then she told me that it hurts so bad because, you know, women usually don't wear like a protective gear in the front, right? She said it hurt so bad, but then she just shook it off. And then when she went back to the back after the fight, she took her pants off and or her shorts off, and there was blood everywhere.
Oh my god!
Everywhere, yeah. Like, and then I asked Mackenzie about that situation, and she said she had the same thing against Maria Rodriguez because Maria Rodriguez kicked her in the crotch. And she also had blood there. TMI, but you know what I mean? Like, people need to know about this stuff.
Anessa Miskin, the girl from One Championship, she teeped me in the stomach once and I threw up blood. So
what?
Yeah, there was that as well. She's awesome. She's really, really good too.
She just fought last night, I believe.
Yeah, she looked awesome. I'm gonna walk and talk whilst we go to the car too. And the phone dies, people.
All right.
Okay, let's keep it going.
Yeah, let's see. We got. Can you ask Casey about the online troll that wanted to spar? Oh, we talked about that earlier. You got to rewind that back.
Yeah, rewind, guy. Where were you coming from?
Or is it okay? Here's a good question. Who should we look out for in the future from Eternal MMA? Well, we talked about that earlier as well.
I got a bunch. If you want to hear them.
Okay, let's hear them.
Stephen Ursig. We've got Jacinta Austin, Amina, I can't remember her last name, but she's great. Talia Greats, Blake Donnelly, David Martinez. We've got, sorry, my boyfriend's getting grumpy that we're taking too long. Sean Etchell. We've got a bunch. Like I could sit here and rattle off names after names, but
What about Dave
Eternal-
Martinez? Dave Martinez is he's
so
a character,
funny.
right?
He really is so funny. Like I'm not sure what his stick is, but I think it's hilarious. And him being in that grudge match.
I think we're done. No. Oh, they're in the elevator. You could tell. They're in the elevator.
Sorry.
It's all good. Hey, it's okay. Let's you could turn it off now, and I'll catch you later, Casey. Have a good night. She's gone. All right. So we got about. Oh, there she is. She's back. All right, Casey.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. Go take care of business. Have a good night and enjoy the
Perfect.
evening.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye. All right, you guys that's left in the chat, fire away. Any questions? I'm open for any questions about the card. Bellator is going on right now. You know, Pitbull is fighting Boric. Maybe we could talk about that. Just shoot me some questions. But yeah, going back to the card. Until you guys throw some questions. Going back to the card. Yeah, man, there was some great finishes, man. You had Brendan Allen. He went in there and rear naked choked Christoph Jocko. Man, the Randy Costa fight was pretty what is it? Guido Canetti fight was pretty crazy. I think Guido's like 42. He's the same age as me, man, but he's still fighting in the UFC and beating the youngsters, the up and comers, and doing it in incredible fashion because the dude only gets finishes. And I love it. Let's see. What is it? Yeah, Mike Davis. What is it? Okay, we got a question. Thoughts on the media not being allowed at the Apex? I think, the media not being at the Apex, maybe not being in the arena, like, or in the cage area. I guess it's not a problem, but I feel like they should at least allow the media to be in the back where they do the post-fight press conferences where fighters can come back and get interviews. Because like did they do those interviews? I don't think they did post-fight interviews, right? So I think a lot of the fighters missed out on that. You know what I mean? This is an opportunity. A lot of fighters only fight a couple times a year. Some fighters only fight once a year, and they got to take advantage of this platform. So in the post-fight interviews, they get to answer, certain questions. They get to promote themselves, and they didn't get that opportunity tonight. I feel like that part sucks. The media being allowed there, I'm pretty sure the media, they cover so many shows that it's a welcome. It's welcome. You know what I mean? It's welcome to them. They're like, oh, I don't have to go tonight. I could just watch from my house and do my job from home. Why not? You know what I mean? Why not? Did Mark Zuckerberg rent out the Apex? I have no idea. Was he there? Definitely, he was there. We saw him. Was his wife there? Definitely. It's interesting to me that his wife's favorite fighter is Mackenzie Dern. And in the main event, and his wife is Chinese. In the main event, she fought a Chinese girl, and the Chinese girl won the fight. And maybe she made a fan of her. I don't know for sure. But what else? Any other questions? What is it? Zuckerberg scared the media probe. Maybe. I don't know. My guy Kai Wu, he trains. You've probably seen him in the video, the workout videos. He trains Mark Zuckerberg. So he says Mark Zuckerberg, he works hard, man. Like, he really wants to learn. He loves the sport. Like, he's really a fan of it. And he's, he's an intelligent. He's an intelligent individual. So his mind has 50 million different things, but just him having time to train and be fans of certain fighters, that's cool to me, man. I'm not like into like the tech stuff, but why not? It opens up a lot of doors. What else you guys got here? Hey, you guys can ask me about Australian MMA, New Zealand MMA. I covered Australian, New Zealand MMA for years, and I'm still covering them. You know what I mean? My guy Chris Ferguson, he does some work out there with Eternal and Hex, and I've interviewed so many fighters out in Australia. I've interviewed like Jack Della before he was in the UFC. Casey, I've known her for years. Jack Della as well. Josh Kulabau. The list is long. I mean, there's so many good fighters out there that we haven't even heard of yet, or I've heard of them, but a lot of people internationally haven't heard of, and they're starting to go out. Because of the pandemic, everybody was stuck, but they're starting to go out and fight for different promotions around the world, and you and you'll find out. You'll start seeing these guys. Let's see. Did you win your fight you were training for? No, I'm still training for my fight, man. Like I don't think I should be rushing to fight. You know what I mean? I'm thinking I'm gonna fight at the beginning of next year, but I don't think I should be rushing it because training has been an extreme process for myself, and injuries and like figuring out like what I'm good at and what I want to do. You know what I mean? To better myself as a fighter. It's a long process, man, and it's tough, especially when you want to train with like good fighters, but you suck. Like I suck, I mean, compared to like even guys coming up, they've been training for years and they're just becoming a pro. Like even training with them, I'm just getting manhandled. You know what I mean? Like, of course, they're like 20 something years old, half my age, but still, you know what I mean? I'm getting like, so I have to learn to like adjust my training, my style to compete against them, and that's a process in itself. And that's just for practice. That's just for training. You know what I mean? That's not even a fight. And luckily, I have good people around me that want me to succeed and want me to develop and have my best interests. So I'm just gonna take it slow. If I fight early next year, if I fight in the middle of next year, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of stuff going on in my life as well. With work, with family, there's a lot to juggle. So fighting is there, but you know what I mean, I'm not gonna rush into the cage or into the ring or whatever you want to call it. I want to take my time and train and develop myself. Okay, Michael Panza, who's your pick for Charles and Islam? Well, if I'm gonna bet money, I don't even know what the odds are. Can someone put the odds up if you know what the odds are? But if I'm gonna bet money, I would just bet who the underdog is, because this fight is just, to me, it's evenly matched. Like, we've seen greatness from both guys. Both guys can finish the highest level, talent out there in the the Shark Tank division of the the lightweight division. And what's crazy is they're fighting for a vacant belt. You know what I mean? No one is a champion. So of course people believe that Charles Oliveira is the uncrowned champion because the whole weight thing that happened last fight. And I agree with them. I feel like Charles Oliveira deserves to be the champion in this fight. But Mike, he said Charles on plus. Then I'm gonna take Charles with plus money because I'm gonna take the underdog in that fight because I feel like it's evenly matched. Whoever's the underdog, put money on that. I put like a couple hundred on that, and but I feel that it's a toss up, and I could see Islam going in there and cooking Du Bronx. I could see that. I could see that happening. I could see Islam because he has Habib next to him every day, coaching him, preparing him for this fight. You don't think they're not crossing all the T's and I's? You know what I mean? They're crossing everything. And what is it? Charles as well. Charles has a great team at Shoot the Box, great coaches, and I always like to say is the proof is in the pudding. Look at his performances. But I just don't like, you can only fight like Charles does so many times until you're the nail, right? Because he's been the hammer continuously, right? In these barn burner fucking wars. But eventually you're going to be the nail if that actually happens. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think this is going to be a barn burner. I think this one is going to be slow pace, and Islam's going to try to cook Charles. It's just, can Charles sweep Islam, get on top, or can Charles just go for the takedown? Do you think, because we've seen crazy things happen like that? John Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson. Gustafsson took down John Jones. Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman. Leon Edwards took down Kamaru Usman. So I don't know if people don't think that Charles Oliveira cannot take down Islam. It's a possibility. These guys are the best of the best in the world, the whole fucking world. So nothing is impossible for them. But I think what's going to happen is Islam's going to play the smart game plan and try to take him down just like he does everybody else and cook him and stay out of submissions. If he can stay out of the submissions and keep Charles on his back, he's going to ride into the sunset with a solid win and maybe even finish him. And I was talking with Sean Madden, the striking coach for Easton Muay Thai. You know, he's the striking coach for many UFC fighters, past and present. And we talked, and he mentioned the Paul Felder fight, where Paul Felder stayed out the submissions and had crazy ground and pound for from top, you know what I mean, and finished Charles. I could see that happening. Why would you not be able to see that happening? I think people hate a certain fighter so much that it clouds their judgment. Like, people hate Islam so much that it clouds their judgment. And then also, like, vice versa, people love Islam so much that it clouds their judgment. So I got a lot of hate all the time. You know what I mean? A lot of hate all the time, just because I'll phrase a certain question to certain people and they're like, oh, why do you hate Islam? Why do you hate Habib? You hate all these. I don't hate those. Why would I hate people I don't know? They have done nothing bad in this world. Not that I have seen. You know what I mean? It's not like they've went out and like committed crimes and gotten away with it or something. Like, there's no reason. These guys are fighters. They train, they fight. You got to see like the Dagestanis, you know, and the Russians. These guys, all they do is sleep, eat, train, sleep, eat, train, sleep, eat, train. Like, that's different from a lot of other fighters. Like, there's a lot of American fighters or fighters around the world that don't keep that schedule. Like, they don't smoke, they don't drink, they don't party, they don't do none of that stuff. All they do, their life is training. You know, I mean, there's a lot of guys out there. You know, we've seen the biggest example, probably the greatest fighter of all time, John Jones. He loves to drink, he loves to party, he loves all that, and on top of that, he can still go out there and put in work and be one of the best of all time, or the best of all time. So I'm so like, I try to get out there to Abu Dhabi for that fight to cover it, but I just can't make it. But I'll be watching, man. It's gonna be incredible. I don't think the card is that good though. Let me find out what the card looks like. I don't think the card is that good, but it's heavily based on like Islam and Charles Oliveira. Okay, so the what is it? Oh, it's a pretty fucking good card. You know, you got Sterling and Dillashaw, you got Jan and O'Malley, Dariush and Gamrot, Chukagian and Farrat. You got Mohammed versus Brady. Yeah, so, but it's a pretty long card though. There's a lot of fights on there. You got Muhammad Makkah fighting again. He's legit. Like, he's only had one fight, I believe. Still, he's legit. Yeah, so I hope I answered your question about the Islam and Oliveira fight. That's one of the best fights I think we're gonna have, or highly anticipated fights in the last 5 years. That is one of the most highly anticipated fights in the last 5 years, I think. Let's see. Any other questions, man? About 7 minutes left, and then I'm gonna bounce and enjoy the rest of the day with my family, because my life is just basically covering the sport and training and spending time with my family. You know what I mean? That's it. That's what I live for. So any other topics you guys wanna get into, let me know. What else was going on? Yeah, Alir Latifi, he retired today, which I think a lot of people did not expect to happen. It's good on him, man. Like, if you know, like, it's time to retire, it's better that way than just prolonging your career until like you're forced to retire. You gotta think, this is a fight, or this is fighting, right? Like, training is just drains your body. Your body is hurt all the time. You're putting it through like a grinder, and then you go fight and you're taking head trauma, right? Head trauma is something that you should not look at lightly. So if he's ready to bounce, let him bounce and enjoy, time in retirement. These are the guys that are gonna coach the next generation. These are the guys that are gonna grow the sport, in their retirement. I think that's what's gonna happen with a lot of these guys. What else? What else you guys got? I love me some Paul Craig. Is he fighting on that card? Nah, he's not. I don't see his name. Yeah, I don't see Paul Craig. I could talk about Mohan Makkah versus Malcolm Gordon. I think Mohammed, his skill set is perfect for Malcolm Gordon. I think he goes in there. I don't see him going in there and doing that flashy knockout like he did last time. I think Malcolm Gordon's going to be a little bit more smarter because he's seen what the kid has to offer. Mohammed's going to go in there and he's going to wrestle the shit out of him. I think he's going to dump him on his head over and over and over and over until Malcolm Gordon has enough, and then he's going to go in and finish him. That's what I see happening in that fight. Muhammad Makkah, I met Muhammad in like 2017 or something when he was still an amateur, and I interviewed him at Tiger Muay Thai. And that's everybody was saying that at that time when he was an amateur, everybody was saying this kid is the next big thing, and we're seeing it happening, in front of our eyes. He is the next big thing. Flyweight, they need someone like him, and that's why they signed him. Let's see what else we got here. Tatiana Suarez is underrated fighter. She is unprecedented. She is, man. Like if she had been around for the last couple of years, the division would be much different. Let's just say that. You know what I mean? The division will be much different. She is an extreme talent. How would Pitbull do in the UFC? I think Pitbull will do. I think he would do really well in the UFC, to be honest with you. I think he would go in there and there would be a lot of great matchups. It's just kind of like how Michael Chandler did when he came into the UFC. Like he has the style to where he can build excitement. And that's what Pitbull can do at 145. He can build excitement in some of the fights, some of the matchups. And if he does sign with the UFC eventually in the future, I could see him right away getting into like some crazy matchup. Like imagine him versus like a Dan Ige. Imagine him versus like a Calvin Kattar or even a Giga Chikadze. Even him versus the Korean Zombie. Like those fights would be insane. Pitbull, he's not just a knockout artist. He can submit dudes. I'm watching him fight right now. He's got boards in he just sweep boards with the Kimura. Who does that? He does that, right? And he's a good fighter. All right, let's see what he's at. Do you think Randy Costa gets cut? I hope they don't. I hope they don't cut Randy Costa. He doesn't even. I think that was his 10th fight as a professional. Let me see. Yeah, I think that was his 10th fight as a professional, right? Yeah, it was. He's 6-4 now. Sometimes when you got a guy like him that's still developing, and it's clear that he's talented, right? The boy can crack. He got decent boxing. He got crazy kicks, and I just hope they don't just like brush him to the side. I hope that they let him go back into the lab and train for like 6 to 8 months on some things, because I know he took a long break right here, but I think he needs a little bit more time to go out and maybe do some soul searching even more, because we talked before the fight and he was talking about how like he was in a dark place and all these things. So and he kind of went up a lot of mental barriers. So maybe he needs to go in and do some more of that and train and just not worry about fighting like in the UFC anymore. Just worry about training, and then the UFC gives him another fight. Just do or die fight, because it's like they don't really like to keep people around too long. And that's the problem right now with the Contender Series and like fighters jumping into the UFC so fast, is that you could end your career before it even starts because it's just too early for you. You haven't developed enough in your skill set to go and compete with some of the matchups. Like Guido Canetti, he's 10-7, but man, he's fought some crazy competition and done really well. You know what I mean? A lot and he's 42 years old, as you know, like that. There's a lot of training throughout the years, even though he hasn't fought as much, but there's a lot of training that he's done to where he's built this skill set that he could go out there and be a wild fighter and finish fights against young prospects coming up because they can't handle the pressure or whatever, you know, that he puts forth in the fighter, whatever bad demons that they're battling, you know, or whatnot. So I just think that they should give him another chance, even, you know, with Trevin Jones as well. That bantamweight division is stacked, man. And I think Randy Costa and Trevin Jones are two guys that are young that still could possibly make a run, and you got to give them their chances, man. Who should Randy Costa fight? Why don't we just put Randy Costa versus Trevin Jones? Go home or go hard. Why can't we do that? You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's the one. Maybe that. I think the styles work really well against each other, and I like both dudes. So you know, I'll cheer for both of them. Maybe Randy Costa versus Trevin Jones. Let's see what happens. So I'm just waiting for the decision for Pitbull, and then I'm gonna bounce out. Who do you guys think won? You know, I'm not really paying attention. I'm talking to you guys, but this is for the title, man. Pitbull. Yeah, body language shows me that Pitbull looks like he won. There we go. Pitbull raising his hand. Yep, defense. Pitbull is he's a talent, man, and I think these other promotions, if he's a free agent eventually, they need to chase after him and try to get him from Bellator. Because he's probably pound for pound one of the greatest fighters Bellator has ever had. You know what I mean? So I would like to see him test his talent in other promotions against different matchups, right? That's it. Thank you guys all for joining. Please like, subscribe, share. We'll be back in 2 weeks. There's next week there is no UFC show, but in 2 weeks we'll be back, and I'll be back with another different fighter guest, and we'll be breaking down the UFC Vegas 62. Yeah, and go into the descriptions, download the app. Please download the app. The link is in the descriptions. You can customize it for MMA, all the major promotions, the UFC, Bellator, PFL. You know, you just customize it for that, and then you could get all the updates. You could get the stats, the statistics. You could get betting content. You get everything on the app. Go download it. Any place. The link right there. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you guys